Yeah.
Good. Okay, let's see. Refresh. Day of the Tentacle is live, I believe. Yes, here it goes. Do you want me to lead this in?
Oh yeah.
Test, test, test. Okay, alright. You ready?
Yeah. All right, so yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, hey, what am I doing? I didn't even say anything. Oh my goodness.
I started talking too, so let's start that over.
Dude, should I go or should you? I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me.
I'll go. I'll lead it in.
Yeah, you go.
I'll lead it in. Ooh, somebody's watching. I think.
Maybe.
It says on air.
Ooh.
Or I don't know. Let's find out. Oh, possibly. One watching. Yeah, it's me. It's me.
It's just you.
I'm the one watching.
That's okay. One viewer here.
Alright. And here we go. Game number 2. Day of the Tentacle. Remastered. Game number 2, PlayStation Plus, January. I'm scatterbrained. Wow, this is kind of crazy. Anyhow, here we are. If you're watching the broadcast, thank you so much for checking this out, checking out the gameplay for the January PlayStation Games of the Month. If you're listening on iTunes, it'd be really cool for you to check out the videos also, because that's just as cool. But here we are, Day of the Tentacle. This is a game that I did not play back in the day whenever it came out. This is another LucasArts remaster. So you'll have to fill in the gaps on what exactly this is and what it's all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you got so far for Day of the Tentacle?
So for those of you watching, I'll just kind of just randomly start up. I'll just start up a new game here as far as how things are going. I have broadcasted this before. I did broadcast like the first hour or two of playing this game. Just in terms of its history. Your autosave data will be overwritten. Are you sure you want to start a new game? No, I'm not going to do that. Maybe I'll just load the game from somewhere. We'll just see what happens. The reason being, yeah, I actually did enjoy this game. I mean, first off, I think there's a lot to be said about just the quality that they put into making games that were once really only they were relegated to like these super old computers and everything. You can't play them currently, so it's really kind of amazing to see that there are games out there that really are getting their time in current next-gen systems. So it's really cool to see that. I would say about this game, though, in terms of the story, I'm going to load up one of the ones that's about 13% in the game, but there are some really cool things about this. If you've ever played a LucasArts game, for one, I think with the touchpad here, switch back to the 90s version of this game.
Before you go any further, I want to make that one point before you keep talking. The absolute coolest thing about this game was, with the touch of a button, you instantly convert to the original graphics how it was seen on the PCs.
Yep.
And then you can press it again to instantly bring it to the beautiful remaster that they did. I thought that was so cool.
It's probably
to the remaster team for doing that.
I think honestly it's probably some of the best work you're gonna see in terms of just taking like old source material and updating it for the current day. I mean, it's not done in this way that's like I mean, if you're watching the YouTube video, you can kind of see this, but it's not done in a way that really even changes the game very much. It really only just changes the way in which you play a little bit of the game. There are, in the old school version, you have the commands that you could use at the bottom, so you'd have to press the command and then do whatever you're going to do, right? Or if you're going to, use an item to the right of that, you would use a command and then click on whatever item it is to the right. But when you're actually like looking at how the game plays when you do the remastered, it's really just like a little contextual like button. Like you can, let's see if I can kind of bring things up at R1, L1. So like there's different ways to kind of play it. Like they're definitely like those old school game controls, but they really were faithful to the source material, which is really pretty awesome. But yeah, overall, just to give you I'm just kind of walking around blindly in this game because you know, it is a story-based game, so you do have to follow some semblance of you know, the items that you're picking up as you go to each room, and you have to think about, you know, why am I taking this item and what am I doing with it. There's all the there's the content of the story itself that really drives what you're doing with all those little things that you're picking up. So just to give you a general overview of the story, this scientist, who is the scientist from the Maniac Mansion games, which is also like a classic LucasArts game, one of the first adventure games out there. That character, this is the sequel to that game. He is in this mansion. They're like tough on times or something like that too as well, and he for some reason creates some experiment that creates this super intelligent tentacle that basically decides to rule the world. He decides, that scientist, to then send these 3 people back in time, or he was going to send them back in time. But what happens is that one person goes back in time, the character you see on screen. There's another character that we can switch to. His name is Eugene. And then there's a girl. I honestly can't remember her name right now because I didn't unlock her at this point in the story. But Eugene is in present day. The kind of big slacker oafish guy is in the past, and then this girl is in the future. So you kind of get to see this like story as if like the tentacle ended up ruling the world and like like enslaving humankind. You get to see that in the future part of the story. In the past, you get to see how your changes affect the present day or the future. So it's a really well connected story, and that's really the best part about LucasArts games in general. Is that they do a good job with that. The main gameplay element is that each character finds items, and then they can take those items to this porta-john thing that's a time machine, and you can throw items into the porta-john. And then other characters can go to their respective porta-john and pull it out, and they call it a chronojohn, that's what it's called. But they pull out the item and they can pass items to each other. So it's kind of funny. It's like a simple gameplay element that you can pass items to each other, but that's how you get a lot of the puzzles solved. And they're all completely random. You honestly need to probably look up a guide on this game, like most of the LucasArts games that we've reviewed.
Yeah, you had mentioned on our previous episode when we talked about I believe it was our Rogue One episode, we kind of end capped it with some of the games we were playing. Or no, I think it was What You Play Man. I can't remember.
It was What You Play Man.
But you mentioned there was like, you know, the site that kind of, it didn't explicitly tell you what to do, what to next. It was giving you those subtle hints.
Oh, it was like
what would you use this thing for? And
yeah, it was like universal cheat system or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's kind of guided you. It wasn't exactly a huge, this is exactly what you have to do. So I thought that was kind of neat. I unfortunately didn't even think about that when I was playing this for a little bit. But.
You know, that's the thing though too, is that like this game, when it came down to it, and I just when I sat down, I was like, okay, because Eric, I've made a commitment to myself as of late. It's just like, if I'm gonna buy a game or at least make it, even if it's part of this free package, like I'm gonna do my best to try and beat it. Just to see, like, because like, yeah, sometimes the games are not necessarily worth your time, but this was one of those games that people are like, they're like, this is a great game, you have to play it. And overall, I would say it's a really great story. It's a really kind of just funny story overall. It's not for everybody. I don't think. If you don't have 3+ hours to sit down and actually commit to playing this game and looking through some of those cheat guides and listening to the story as you play, and kind of this is sort of the game that you might I understand the reason why this was on like PCs back in the day, because it was like one person at a computer terminal playing it. And it like today, this game isn't like a game that I think you like play with friends and things like that. Like if people are talking over it, you're not gonna understand what's going on. Like
exactly.
I think it needed a help system. I will say that there are tones that go off when you go into a room to key you in that you need to do something in that room, but that's about it. You don't get any other like cheats towards anything.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah.
that was kind of the thing with me. You know, I noticed obviously how awesome it looked and the switching between the original graphics, but and obviously right off the bat I knew it's like, okay, this is your classic old school point and click PC game, but it's on a console. So with me there was kind of that disconnect where I was like, I'd rather be playing this on a computer than playing it on my PlayStation.
Right. No.
And and with it being a point and click, especially with these older games, I mean, if you played older games, I mean, not even these point and click ones, but I mean, back in the day, I mean, remember when you'd buy the huge strategy guides
Oh
to
yeah.
get through games? This is exactly one of those, games where you, at some point, you're going to need something. And I found myself just, for the majority of the time that I was playing it, I was lost.
Yeah.
And the point and click style on a console isn't my thing. I don't particularly care for it too much, but that's just me. That's just something with my gameplay taste. But not to knock the fact that, I mean, it looks absolutely stunning, and to see what it was and what they did with it, and the fact that they offer old games like this for people that, especially fans of this game or the LucasArts games, I mean, this is just awesome that they have this here, this awesome looking remaster of probably a childhood favorite game that they had, and here it is in beautiful HD on their PS4, and they probably love it to death.
And that's really I think that's the thing too, is that obviously this is targeted at that gamer that above, I would say above 30, let's say like 35, it would probably be that age group, because we're in our 30s, so like I would say like a little bit older than us, probably that dawn of PC gaming and what these games actually did. Like those people still play video games. They want to play video games as much as anybody else. So I do think it's kind of cool that we're getting something, we're getting things resurrected, which is really cool. Like, people made a big deal about these games when they came out, so it's cool to see what the big deal is actually about. So but yeah, I would say you have to have a certain amount of time to want to play this game. You gotta have a good strategy guide, something that's gonna kind of guide you. I'll when I actually post about this on our website, when we actually do the podcast, I'll link to the actual website that I use for this game, because I think it'll help a lot of people, so that way they don't feel like it's too daunting to want to play through this game. But to be honest, even with the guide, there were certain moments where I was like, okay, just tell me what to do, and it didn't explicitly always tell me. So it still is one of those things that you play this game, you're gonna have to expect a little bit of like your head knocking, because you're trying to figure out all those little things. So
right. You mentioned the lack of a help or a guide in game. Not in a guide in the sense of, hey, this is what you have to do, but even just a guide in the sense of, hey, this is how the game works. This is how you control it. I found that was lacking a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was partially where I got lost. I was like, what am I supposed to do here? And especially when I hit the old school button and then saw, the giant menu at the bottom with all the different, buttons and options and things. I said, holy crap, I have no idea what I'm doing here. So when I feel lost right off the bat, that I don't particularly care for. But that's exactly how this game was when it came out. So it's, they were faithful to, what it was. So,
it's a different style game for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. But all in all, I would definitely say give it a shot.
Awesome.
Check it out. See if it's something. Even if you've never played anything like this, it may be something that you enjoy. So yeah, absolutely check this out and see what you think.
I think I would say I would say the same thing. I think it's something that is a callback to those people who want to play these games, who remember them, and I think it's worth the time for the story. I think it was a really funny story overall. So definitely, if you're looking for some kind of like late 90s comedy and that kind of stuff, I think you might enjoy it. So that's two give it a shots from me and E Huffy here. But we also I guess we'll round up, saying this War of Mine, you will definitely do not want to give that a shot. It's kind of a waste of your time, really, overall.
War is not good. Avoid it.
War is kind of a
Yes.
bad story for a strategy building game, basically.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't
Or
know.
if you're gonna do a war game, at least try to make it like Valiant Hearts. That was a great war game.
Make it something like, yeah, like I don't want to feel like
Yeah.
I actually dread playing this game, like it's actual war or something like that. Yeah.
And I'm gonna be completely honest. I feel that the last 6 months has been kind of
Yeah.
mediocre for the PlayStation Plus games.
No, I
Hits and
agree.
misses. I really, really think they need to get on that bandwagon of at least offering us something that's a little more mainstream. And even if it's a game that's like 3 years old,
Yeah.
4 years old, give us something a little mainstream to tie with Day of the Tentacle, or, you know, This Means War, or War is Here, or whatever the hell that game was, This Little War of Mine. You know, give us just a little, that adds to the variety for me, because then more people will, I think you'll catch more people who want to do this PS Plus stuff. Granted, most people have PlayStation Plus because they play online anyways. They need that to play online. They need to play
Right.
their Call of Duty and all this other stuff. So they're going to have it regardless. But to me, the other main draw of PlayStation Plus is the free games. I mean, holy cow. And plus still having my PlayStation 3, I'm essentially getting 4 games for free
Right.
every single month. And so, yeah, it's like just every once in a while sprinkle in some of that, and they used to, but now they don't anymore. So I really want them to get back to that, because I have no idea what the heck we're gonna get, in February, which I think is weird. Tomorrow's the 1st, which is a Wednesday. We're not gonna get these games until the following week, which I think is just kind of crazy. I don't know why they can't just get these up right up on the 1st.
Right. I always think that that's kind of weird too as well. That it's always like, yeah, you can't play these games until, even though it's the very first day of the next month,
Yeah.
and you have to wait until whatever arbitrary day that they decide, the first Tuesday, I think, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So
first Tuesday of February.
it's still kind of one of those things that, like, I wonder, are they going to be able to keep the Steam coming up into this next year? And then, like, we're not going to really be changing our consoles, I think, in general right now. I think the gaming market right now is too varied. It's too everything everywhere. Like, you can get whatever you want on any system, but, like, are you getting the best experience? And I really hope ultimately that, like, they keep, like you're saying, put in those games that are big enough to each of us. Like, PlayStation faithful, I think in general, there's a lot of games out there that, we're definitely willing to pay for, but I think in general, like, don't, they call it shovelware for a reason. Like, they get it in and they shovel it out, and they shovel it out to the consumer. So I'm hoping that we don't see so much of that. I don't think that either of these games were shovelware, but I do think that definitely one of them was not as good this time around. But you're right, man. Like, in general, like, last 6 months they've shown us more stuff in general, but I don't think there's been enough in terms of the varying quality. We've gotten, like, the quantity. We've gotten the varying difference between games, but we haven't gotten anything that's really like, well, that was a different quality or a different type game, but the quality was, like, kind of and it wasn't really there really overall. But I think PlayStation Plus, it's always a valuable service. You need it for multiplayer gaming, obviously, there too.
Yeah.
So it is a value in that regard. But, man, we're gonna have the Switch coming up, and I've pre-ordered that, and hoping I will be getting that right at the first week of March, and playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I've always said wrong. That name.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some different options, and like, again, I just want to make the point that if you're going to Nintendo for high def games, you've clearly missed the point. Like, you don't get the fact that there are properties that they're going to take care of and do by, like, as best as they can. And I think, like, we're going to have a lot of competition that way from different types of games, and we're going to have, still PlayStation and Microsoft and Xbox duking it out. So we're gonna do our best to talk as much about it as we possibly can.
It's going to get interesting. So yeah, I guess on the horizon, obviously the Switch stuff will be coming up. We're on the road to WrestleMania currently, so we'll be talking about that stuff as it comes along. And yeah, looks like 2017 shaping up to be a fantastical year in games and wrestling.
So yeah, we're gonna be coming back with probably our Rumble review coming up next,
Yep.
Which will be interesting. We'll just say that much. And
that will be an interesting episode.
we'll try to get some guests on that one here too as well. But we want to thank you again for joining us for this edition of the dual version of our podcast, both YouTube and on our podcast, audio podcast on Podomatic. So check us out on gamesandgimmicks.com. We got articles up there too as well, and just random bits of my thoughts everywhere. So if you're interested, feel free to take a look at gamesandgimmicks.com. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Until next time.
See ya.